Hi everyone! Today we will be talking about the differences between Enneagram 2 and Enneagram 4. I've posted a couple of videos before comparing different Enneagram types, and because I've created quite a lot of content on comparing different MBTI types, I would like to also continue my series on comparing different Enneagram types. So today we will be talking more specifically about types 2 and 4. So all about that in the next few minutes. If you haven't already, please don't forget to like and subscribe, and let's dive in. So, Enneagram 2 is also known as the helper or the giver, whereas Enneagram 4 is also known as the individualist or the romantic. Both of these types are part of the heart triad or the heart intelligence center, which means that both of these types are primarily concerned with suppressing shame and consequently building an identity that constitutes a specific strategy for them in order to deal with that shame. So, for example, for Enneagram 2, the strategy to deal with shame is to make sure that they receive love and appreciation from other people due to the fact that they are helpers or givers, which is why a lot of the times type 2 individuals will focus a lot on helping other people, giving to other people, supporting other people, anticipating other people's needs, making sure that they put other needs first, the needs of those they care about, because they feel that only in this way do they deserve to receive love and appreciation from others. And this is the strategy that enables type 2 to deal with shame-related aspects. On the other hand, Enneagram type 4, also known as the individualist or the romantic, is more focused on making sure that their unique, authentic self shines through. Because this is the way in which this type believes that they are worthy of that kind of love. And this is how they are able to deal with the shame associated with that. So a lot of the times, type 4 individuals will really try hard to make sure that they are special, that they are unique, that they are showing up as their authentic selves and not just as something or someone that is the same to everybody else. This is why for type 4, it is extremely important to connect to that. Now, this is only, like a more simplistic general description of the two types. And when comparing the two and making sure that we understand the differences, I would say that there are some other aspects that are really, really important and can really help us kind of determine the difference between the two types. So when it comes to different types of classifications or triads, one of the main differences between these two types is that type 2 is a compliant type, whereas type 4 is a withdrawn type. So type 2, like 1 and 6, is compliant. This means that it's easier for type 2 to interact with other people by focusing on what they can do for others. A lot of the times, individuals in the compliant triad feel that they need to do things for other people. They need to comply with other people's expectations and desires. They need to keep their promises. And they often tend to do a lot of sacrifices for other people. It comes naturally for them to give to others, to put other people first, to in some way sacrifice some of their own happiness to make sure that they cater for the needs of other people. On the other hand, type 4 being withdrawn types like 5 and 9 are more likely to just enjoy being on their own. So especially in like a work context or a group kind of context. The withdrawn types find it easier to kind of take a step back, not be the leader, not be the follower, not necessarily be the one that complies or conforms, but also not really trying to like dominate the group either. So for type 4, it will be quite easy to just, be with their imagination, be in their own world, connect to what's important to them rather than what the group says or rather than what the society expects of them. Of course, these things are not like 100%, like it's not something that we can apply to every single situation. Any person of any type will display behaviors from all groups. But this is something that we tend to notice as a pattern, that type 2 is more compliant and type 4 is withdrawn. Another classification that I think is really, really helpful when kind of distinguishing type 2 and type 4 is the fact that type 2 is a positive outlook type, whereas type 4 is a reactive type. So what does this mean? Type 2 being a positive outlook type is more likely to be optimistic, is more likely to look at the positive aspects of a situation, like the name suggests, and basically focus on the things that they enjoy. Basically focus on how they can create happiness in their interactions with other people and how they can share positive feelings with others and also help other people be happy. So, in a way, this can look like a positive trait, and it definitely can be in a lot of situations, but there are also a lot of moments where this attitude can cause the positive outlook types to neglect problems, especially their own problems, or to suppress their negative feelings. Type 7 and 9 are also in this category. And because they do that, it becomes a little bit more difficult for them to actually deal with what is going on in their lives. Type 4, on the other hand, being a reactive type, is much more likely to show strong emotional reactions to things, whether they are positive or negative. So if they are going through an experience that makes them happy, if they meet someone that they like, or they have some sort of result that is positive, they are more likely to show strong positive emotions or reactions. If, on the other hand, they are in a situation where they encounter something negative, something that upsets them, they are more likely to show strong negative reactions. And something that is also typical for the reactive types, 4, 6, and 8, is that they expect similar reactions from people that they love, people that they kind of have a positive relationship with. And for them, it is a sign of, let's say, loyalty or connection or trust if these other people are able to share these emotions with them, especially the negative ones. So, for example, you can notice a type 4 getting really upset about something that they experience. And if, I don't know, their partner, for example, or their friend doesn't really validate that negative emotional experience, doesn't really support them and show the same kind of reactions as them, they are more likely than other types to say, well, you're not on my side if you don't do that. And they might perceive that as a lack of trust. On the other hand, a type 2 that is a positive outlook type is less likely to do that. Again, it doesn't mean that it's all black and white and that this kind of like thinking applies in every single situation, but it tends to be a pattern that is more obvious as we look at the big picture, as something that the types encounter more often than not. And the last kind of classification or triad that we will look at today is the object relations theory. In this theory, type 2 is a rejection type, whereas type 4 is a frustration type. So what this means is that for type 2 specifically, rejection is a theme that shows up quite a lot in relationships. Similarly to types 5 and 8, type 2 has a tendency to believe that they will be rejected in their relationships, that other people will not just love them and appreciate them. They kind of expect this to happen. And because of that expectation, they often have a tendency to self-sabotage and reject themselves before other people have the chance to reject them. On the other hand, type 4, being a frustration type like 1 and 7, is more likely to feel like they know what they want, they know what kind of outcome they want in a specific situation, or I don't know how they want to feel or what they want to achieve. And then when they get to that point and they do achieve that thing, or they do get that relationship or situation or whatever, they are unhappy again, they are frustrated again, and they want something else. They want even more improvement, they want even more change, they want something else again. So this is a way that we can look at how the two types interact with the outside world, either through rejection or through frustration. And like I mentioned earlier, again, it doesn't mean that if you're a type 2, you will not experience frustration. And it also doesn't mean that if you're a type 4, you will not experience the feeling of rejection. It's just that they tend to be more obvious. They are patterns that occur more often for one type over the other. And if we look at the situation holistically, we will notice these things. Okay, so I went through the key points in helping you kind of tell the difference between types 2 and 4. First, we looked at a very general description of the two types, and then we looked at the intelligence centers. We noticed the fact that the two types are both in the heart triad. However, in terms of other classifications and other triads, they are quite different. First, we saw that type 2 is a compliant type, whereas type 4 is a withdrawn type. Then we noticed that type 2 is a positive outlook type, whereas type 4 is a reactive type. And then in terms of the third category, we noticed that type 2 is a rejection type, whereas type 4 is a frustration type. So this was aimed to be a general overview of some of the key differences between these two types. Of course, there is more to tell, and we can make a more in-depth video about that as well. So let me know if that interests you. And as always, thank you very much for being with me. Thank you very much for watching this video, and see you next time with another video on typology.